Hello. Welcome on back to my channel. I hope you guys are all doing well. Today I have a really epic tutorial for you because in honor and in celebration of Black History Month, we are creating this full glam fantasy on our gorgeous model Brittany today using only Black owned beauty brands. With these products we created this sparkly pink cranberry smoky eye and we paired it with some glowing skin and the perfect nude lip. It's probably one of my most favorite looks so far on my channel. I'm really proud of it and I hope you guys like it too. So if you want to learn how I created this look right here, then keep on watching. So to begin, I'm using the Fenty Skin Hydra Vizor Moisturizer to prep Brittany's skin. I'm placing this in the main areas of her face first before I start to really work this into the skin with my hands. I'm not being too shy with the amount of product I'm using here because I want her skin to be drenched with hydration before we proceed with the foundation. Also, this moisturizer has an SPF of 30 in it, so in order to fully benefit from the SPF component, I'm being sure that all areas are covered, including the ears, neck, shoulders, and chest. This is a lightweight moisturizer. It's oil-free, it's non-comedogenic, so it's not gonna clog the pores. And I've found that makeup just lays really nicely on top of it. But whether or not you're choosing to lay makeup on top of it or just wear it alone, it doesn't leave that white cast on your skin that a lot of SPF moisturizers can sometimes leave behind. And once I have this completely worked into the skin, you'll see it just leaves the skin looking so radiant and so glowy. Next, for foundation, I'm using the Juvia's Place I Am Magic Velvet Matte Foundation, and I'm applying this on with a brush to the T-zone area before I buff and blend it out with a sponge. This foundation is, it's basically what it's called. It's magic. You're gonna see here in a second just how beautiful it looks on the skin once I fully blend it out with a sponge. It's a full coverage foundation, so you don't have to use a lot of it, which I can really appreciate because although we could build up a medium coverage foundation to be full coverage, the skin just feels heavy sometimes after doing that. You know what I mean? But with this being full coverage, you only need a small amount of it. So your skin won't feel like it's being drowned down in product. And more than anything, I love the finish of this. It's a velvet matte finish. So it's not so matte that your skin will look dry. It has a little sheen to it that just gives this natural looking radiance to the skin. I mean, come on, look at this. Her skin looks incredible. So beautiful. Now to contour, I'm using the same foundation, but in a different shade. So the first shade we used for the base was the shade Kano, and now we're using the shade Chad to contour. I'm using a brush to place this in the hollows of her cheekbones and around the perimeter of her forehead before blending it out with the sponge. Of course, if you're someone who likes a little more contour, specifically around the jawline and the nose, then go for it. I'm not here to judge you. Do your thing, but I didn't feel like it was completely necessary on Brittany today. She has the most beautiful bone structure as is, and I didn't want to add more than we needed. Plus, I'm going to be using a fair amount of concealer next to brighten and bring forward different areas of the face, and I think that will be more than enough. For today, I really want to keep the drama in the eye makeup we create. Alrighty, so now that we have that contour blended out, I'm gonna head over to the I Am Magic Concealer in the shade J9, also from Juvia's Place, and placing this directly underneath the eyes, center of the forehead, upper lip, and chin before also blending this out with the sponge. And for those of you who enjoy watching the blending process, here it is. Okay, so we're just about finished with this blend. To conceal the upper eyelids, I'm using the same concealer but with a brush because our model Brittany has lash extensions on and I don't want to take a sponge across them and get concealer all up in them and stuff, so I'm using a brush for a little more precision. Now for the blush today, I'm using a liquid lipstick from the Lip Bar in the shade Boy Trouble. You may have seen me use this shade a few videos back, but now I'm using it this time around as a blush by placing it on the back of my hand first, mixing it into the bristles of a blush brush, and then slowly start building this pigment onto the cheeks. Besides this being the perfect color to pair with the eyeshadow we'll later be doing, I absolutely love using liquid lipsticks to create blushes. They're pigmented, they blend like a dream, and they're long lasting. And as usual, I'm taking my sponge over everything once more to be sure everything is seamlessly blended. Now with this Beauty Bakerie setting powder in the shade Plantain, I'm using this to set and bake the under eyes, and I'm applying this on using my powder puff. I'm being sure to bring this up pretty close to that nose bridge to really cinch this area and brighten that under eye. I'm only going to be leaving this on for a few minutes before wiping it off and proceeding with the brows and the eyeshadow. Now I end up using two different shades of the setting powder today. For the under eyes, as I mentioned, I'm using the shade Plantain, and then for the rest of the face, I'm using the shade Almond, which is a little deeper of a shade than Plantain. And when I do set the rest of the face, I'm using a large face brush to do this. As you can see, I'm not looking to pack on powder, so using a large face brush will give me a more diffused application of this powder. My goal is to set the foundation we used earlier into place, yet keep a tad bit of that shine in the skin that keeps it looking authentic and fresh. Now that it's been a few minutes, I've wiped that under eye baking powder off, and I'm just taking my powder puff once more and running over everything. Anywhere that I see a little shine that I don't care to have shine there, I'll take my powder puff across and it'll mattify it. And then of course for the eyelids as well, I'm just blending out any creasing that may have occurred with my ring finger and taking that powder puff, running over it, mattifying it, setting it into place, and then of course running it through the brows as well. I like to make sure the brows are really matte and set before taking a brow pencil through it. And once that's done, we can move on to highlighter, which for today is the Pat McGrath Labs Divine Rose Skin Fetish Highlighter, and I'm applying this onto the high points of her cheekbones and eyebrow bone, along with down the center of her nose and Cupid's bow. When I tell you that the camera does not give this highlighter the credit it deserves, I mean that. In person, this highlighter is so incredibly stunning and is perfect for today's look. Once we have this applied onto the skin, we're going to move on to the brows. I'm using the Fenty Beauty Brow MVP in the shade Soft Black and using this to shape and fill in the brows. I begin with brushing the hairs upwards to get an idea as to the shape we're going to be creating here before I begin filling in the brows with this pencil. By the way, can you believe this is truly the first time I've ever used this pencil? I feel like I've heard so much about it ever since it was released, and there's been so many people praising it, and I finally feel like I understand why now. It's a great pencil that's pigmented without it being so pigmented and heavy that you feel like you have a tattooed on brow. You know what I mean? I really like the brush side of this too. I don't feel like I've seen a brush like this before on a brow pencil. It's usually a spoolie we see, but this was pretty cool and unique. Now, once I complete the other brow off camera, I'm going to begin the eye makeup using the Berries palette by Juvia's Place, using that matte deep berry shade to start building up the pigment and the eye shape I want to create. For today's eye makeup, I wanted to create something bold in color, but also something achievable even for beginners in makeup. There's not a whole lot of structure and detail that took place here in this eye makeup today. It's just about getting the pigments onto the lid and blending it outwards. And as usual, I'm keeping the amount of products I'm using pretty simple. I end up creating this whole eye look using just this Berries palette. This palette has 6 different shadows in it that complement each other beautifully. So while I'll use a matte shade to create the shape of the eye, focusing it on the inner and outer corner and in the crease, I'm using the pink metallic shade in the palette in the center of the lid to give us that pop of brightness and reflect. And I'll admit, once I completed the eye makeup, I was a little questionable about it. it at first. Not about the product itself, but how I placed everything and how I did it. I don't know, something about it just didn't seem quite right. And once I finished the rest of the makeup, put the lipstick on and did the hair and everything, I couldn't have asked for it to turn out any better. It was perfect. And because I only took a few minutes to do this eye makeup, there were a few imperfections in it, but I realized that it's those small little imperfections that made it so perfect. Because you know what this look reminds me of? It's something you'd see on the runway in Fashion Week. Makeup that's just thrown on real quick backstage, and the model is rushed out onto the runway and she struts her stuff feeling confident and sassy, and the makeup is just looking bold and fierce without looking like it took 2 hours to complete. You know what I mean? And something about the final look also gave me like flower child hippie vibes from a Gucci spring commercial. I don't know. Anyways, with this Divine Rose liquid lipstick from Pat McGrath Labs, I'm placing this directly in the center of the lips using a lip brush and softly diffusing it outwards. I'm using this ombre technique because for this look, I don't really want the lips to look like they've had lipstick freshly applied. I want the lipstick to look like it's been lived in a little bit, giving it a more effortless look. And lastly, I'm using this gloss bomb in the shade Taffy Tease from Fenty Beauty to add some shine and luster onto that liquid lipstick we used, which officially makes this the last step in creating this bold look on our naturally gorgeous model, Brittany.
Do you feel the same? 'Cause I got high hopes. Do you want the same? 'Cause baby, all I got is high hopes. Do you feel the same? Do you want me, babe? Or is it just a game? 'Cause I got high hopes.
And there we have it, kids. I hope you guys enjoyed today's tutorial. If you did, be sure to give this video a big old thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also check out more of my work on my Instagram at Painted by Spencer. And until next time, I'll see you soon.